I'm Charles Kuralt, and these are some friends of Louis Armstrong. Their lives are all intertwined with one another and with that of the man who was buried here in New York today. Tyree Glenn, Milton Hinton, Buddy Rich, Bobby Hackett, Dizzy Gillespie, Earl Hines, Bud Johnson, and Peggy Lee, all great musicians in their own right. Earl Hines, you went way back with Louis Armstrong, didn't you?
Quite a distance, yeah. And we had an awful lot of fun together. In fact, we palled around quite a bit. We met in Chicago in 24 or 25, I think it was, and we met at the Musicians Union.
Is that right? And, did you know he was a great musician the first time you ever heard him play?
No, we were in there playing pool. That's how we ran across.
Weren't playing music at all.
Yeah, he thought that I was cheating him, you know. So then we began to know each other from then on. And then just through jam sessions, hanging around the union at that time, we began to find out what each other was doing, you know. And we got into a conversation, and then finally we ended up playing, singing things that, in fact, I never thought that I'd run across anybody that had the style that I would like to play if I was going to play trumpet. Because, see, my father played cornet, and that's actually where I wanted to play trumpet. So I used it on the piano. That's why they call it trumpet-style piano. So when I ran across Louis and we started working together, he'd steal something from me and say, thank you. I'd steal something from him and say, thank you. That's where we went wrong.
You know, to the public, he always turned a smiling face. Yeah. Was he, in fact, as happy a man in private as he was in public?
Yes, he was on and off stage and always had some kind of a joke to tell somebody, or he was always trying to plan something so somebody else would laugh, you know. And he... Well, a lot of jokes were played on him, to tell you the truth about it, so that he had to stay funny all the time to keep him getting angry a lot of times, you know. I've never actually seen him real angry because he'd say what he had to say, and that was the end of it. He'd kind of scuff his feet and walk away.
When you say you borrowed from each other, can you show us what you mean, that trumpet-style piano?
Well, I say, see, at one time, the piano used to be all single notes. Playing in Pittsburgh, they had the big bands, but they didn't have amplification, so they couldn't hear the piano then. So I started using the octave. One of those things, you see. And then I was being heard more by playing octaves than I was by playing single notes. So then everybody started using it and called it trumpet style.
They say that there's just nobody playing trumpet who wasn't influenced in some way by Louis Armstrong, but Dizzy Gillespie, I can't imagine how he might have influenced you.
Well, I look at the development of our music and the evolution of our music as one. Each one with a message brings a message for a particular interval in our musical development. And so Louis Armstrong, his message was, he came out in the 20s. So the message of between Louis and me, it was Roy Eldridge, and I used to copy Roy Eldridge. And so Roy was influenced by Louis, so that means that I was the same. It's the same.
So he was the source
for
a lot of people.
He had a phenomenal sense of humor in his playing too. You know, he reminds me of someone who, right in the middle, he gives you a laugh. I used to laugh, you know, right in the middle of one of his solos, man. He was funny. A little something that he would play, and he'd make you laugh, you know, right in the middle of all this. And then one of the things that was really outstanding about his playing was his phenomenal chops. In the jargon of musicians, would be his lips. Man, he made I don't know, maybe about 3,000 high C's at one time, and then end up on a high F or something like that, you know, which was unheard of with trumpet players at the time. Man, he had C, 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 and they say, oh, higher, 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 higher. This is wonderful. And he was, I think, he was truly one of the great contributors to our Native American art form.
Did you, Bobby Hackett, learn anything from him?
Everything I know I learned from Pops, but like Dizzy said, the link between Pops and Roy Eldridge to Dizzy, I copy from all of them and try to disguise it as if it's my own. Sometimes you're lucky and it comes out all right, but to me, Pops was truly an immortal man, and the truth of the matter is that he will never die. I think what he left will always be heard all over the world and enjoyed, and a very gentle reminder to everybody to love thy neighbor and cut out the nonsense.
You know, he was not above criticism. No great man ever is. There was a good deal of criticism probably about making people laugh so much. He played novelty songs and commercial songs, and I'm sure a lot of jazz purists would have wished that he would not do Hello, Dolly and all those songs.
But he was still Louis Armstrong. I don't care what he played.
And he was also a master of comedy, so why not use it?
do no wrong as far as I was concerned.
If he played it, no matter what it was.
Whatever it was. I mean,
That's right.
So he can make it sound.
One note.
That's right, anything. And you're talking about the trumpet players a minute ago. Now, he got a big kick out of me because I used to play everything on the trombone that he played on the trumpet. And he got such a kick out of this. I used to play When You Smile an octave high when Louis used to play it. And I play all them things that Louis used to play. Unheard of. I couldn't read no music, but I would just listen to his records, and that's where I learned it. And he'd always got a kick out of it, and he remembers all those things. Like some of these days, his solo, and he get the biggest kick out of it. I said, Pops, I still know him, man. I'm still playing because anything I play is going to come. You got to find him in there somewhere. You know, I just was listening to what they were saying, and they right what they were saying. I mean,
you know, and his sense of humor, man.
That's what I'm saying.
And listen, one time I walked into his dressing room in Atlantic City, and he had a whole drugstore on his table. And so I said, he took a handful of pills, vitamin pills. He took a whole handful. I said, well, Pops, how do you know what? He said, if they don't know where they're going, Bubba, that's their fault. and he was sitting down, and he was sitting down with a thing wrapped around his legs. You know, what do you call that? No, wrapped around your legs. Somewhere, yeah, legging on his leg. I said, well, Pop, what is that? Well, you got that wrapped around your leg. He said, well, I know you heard of very close veins.
Very close veins.
He's funny, man, I'll tell you.
Well, you know, when I first heard Pops, I guess it was some of his early recordings. I was a kid in Texas, and we used to listen to the OK records. And whether you trumpet, saxophone, trombone, piano, bass, anything, if you wanted to play some jazz, I mean, what's so-called jazz, which is, you would take Pop's style. And, you know, he contributed not only to the trumpets, but the saxophones and everything else, you know. So when I came to Chicago, I was very fortunate enough at the time to be there with Teddy Wilson, my brother Keg Johnson, and myself. We were all living together. And Louis sent for us to join his band in 1933. And this was the thrill of my life, you know, to play with Louis Armstrong, which I had heard so much on the records, and he and Earl, you know, and everything.
Did he live up to what you expected?
Oh, and more. It was like an institution.
That's right.
Being with Louis. He taught you really how to live,
how to relax.
Everything, and how to relax, you know, and he was just a great man.
You know, he identified musician with certain tunes that he liked to hear him play. I know when I came in his band, I was frightening. What can you play after Louis Armstrong plays a solo? He gives you a chance to play a solo. What are you going to play? So the only thing I could think of a bass. I said, well, maybe I'll try to play a ballad, something like Over the Rainbow. Every time he'd see me any place, he'd go, da, da, do, do, da. He always identified me.
That's right.
Buddy Rich, you haven't been heard from. When did you first meet him? Do you remember?
Well, I met Pops about 1940 was the first time. And I think the thing that impressed me most about him was his impeccable time, the rhythmical things that he played. I think he was a drummer at heart because he played trumpet like he would play drums. His rhythms and the time element was an inspiration, I think, not only to trumpet players but to all musicians, drummers, bass players, trombone players. He was just a great, great genius.
Well, you know, you've all talked about him as an instrumentalist. Earl Hines seems to think he was a piano player at heart. You say he was a drummer at heart, and so on. He was a singer, too. Peggy Lee?
Oh, yes. Yes, he was.
Did he influence singers as much as instrumentalists?
Oh, yes. Yes, he did. As a matter of fact, I could add to something that someone has said here. He also encouraged you and made you relax. I met him with Bing Crosby, and I was very, very shy then, and he used to always want to go home rather than go on the air. And every once in a while, Louis would, you know, just say something very nice and complimentary and say that he liked your work or just notice something nice. I think he was one of the greatest men of love and peace and joy. He was full of joy all the time.
All of us knew that, even those of us who didn't know it.
Yes.
You sang the Lord's Prayer for him today. Would you sing another song for him?
I'd love to. I can't give you anything but love, baby. That's the only thing I've plenty of, baby. Dream a while, scheme a while, you're sure to find happiness. And I guess all those things you always find for me. Gee, I know you'd like to see me looking swell. Looking swell, baby. Diamond bracelets were worth doesn't sell, baby. Till that lucky day, you know darn well, baby, I can't give you anything but love.
While you were singing that song, I couldn't help thinking about his own personal life. He must have made a lot of money, but he didn't live a very fancy life, did he? He didn't live in a big house with fancy cars or anything like that.
Very simple man.
I wonder why not. I would have thought that he would have cashed in on that incredible fame and fortune of his.
He just loved his music. He loved his trumpet. That's what he wanted.
He didn't want to get into the race.
He didn't want to get into no kind of politics.
What about that? Some people criticized him for that, for not being up there in the forefront of the civil rights
Yeah,
movement.
but he did. You know, remember when they formed it? Yeah, man. He called everybody everything, man. When he, oh
You
man.
see, just now, I mean, like with all of the beautiful things that are said about him today that are making the world so aware of who this man was. It's really enough the kids should see and get a whole lot of incentive from this. They can see that, oh, yeah, Louis Armstrong, you know, one of the greatest
Well, he would say what
things
he
in
wanted
the
to
world.
say. In a minute.
In a minute.
In a minute, that's right.
Anybody.
You remember the instance where he was sitting in his dressing room, and there was a reporter in there that he didn't know anything about, and it was just an ordinary discussion about the president. You remember that? And this little reporter took this to the newspapers, and the international newspaper took it up, and they came down to ask him, did he say, yes, I said it. He said, I didn't know the man was there, but that's just where I feel in my dressing room. I can say anything I want to say. And that's the way he was. He was just like that.
In those early days, when you first knew him, though, he was sometimes playing in hotels where he couldn't stay, wasn't he?
Oh, we all did that.
Yeah.
We all did that. Yeah, did that.
What do you mean?
But you know, like a lot of the little black kids of today, they don't know who Louis Armstrong was, but now they know. And they can see how great the man was. They didn't know.
You know, speaking
But
about
now
the
they
kids,
know.
No, man. We were in the Sunset Cafe. All musicians used to come in there. Benny Goodman, the Dorsey brothers, everybody would come in there. Just come on, sit down. Come on, sit down. Everybody sit down. I remember one night there was a fellow named Johnny Dunn who was playing with a big band, a big show there, and he was the one that introduced that stretched out bell. You know, that was all. You know what I mean? With him. Had it up on the stage. He was playing the pit and put that up on the stage. So he come in there one night. He was very popular as far as that trumpet was concerned. He had never heard of Louis. And we were sitting up there, and Louis he was kind of fat at that time, and he would only smoke a half a cigarette, bring his handkerchief and lay it across his leg, and sit there with the trumpet on his leg if he wasn't playing, see? So we played these big shows, and then after the show, we just could sort of relax, play anything just to keep from, we've been working so hard for the show. So we was finished playing the show, and Johnny Dunn comes in, everybody turns around, Johnny Dunn, Johnny Dunn. So Johnny Dunn, while he was dancing, walked up and said, look, give me that horn. So Louis, he handed it to him, and just looked at him. He didn't know who he was. And so first thing, the only thing he said, you got a mouthpiece? He said, yeah. He said, I don't let nobody use my mouthpiece. So he said, I got no mouthpiece. So he played about 3 or 4 courses of blues and handed the trumpet back to Louis, and of course everybody was applauding, what have you. So we were playing a thing called Poor Little Rich Girl. Played it in that tempo. He must have played 20 courses of that thing and just kept going higher and higher and higher. And I said, Louis, where you going to play? He was sitting next to me, you know. And he just kept going, closed his eyes, and blew and blew and blew. And the next thing I thought, Johnny Dunn was walking out the door. He was walking out the door on a stretcher. And actually, they tell me that's what made Louis very popular in New York, because when Louis went to New York to join Fletcher Henderson, Johnny Dunn was always giving parties and inviting Louis.
Well, thank you all for your warm reminiscences of Louis Armstrong. Will you play one last song for him?